What's up, everybody? Ben Rasa and Matt Gajewski here for Awesemo Odds, and we are back talking all things college football. Week 11, best bets, preview, everything that you need to know to get started for your betting card this week. Now, before we dive into our bets, another thing you need to know, BetMGM. If you have not been over there, you're going to get started. New users deposit $10 or more using the link in the description of this video, and you're going to get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. In addition, 3 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum is going to cover you. College football, NFL, NBA, NHL, any sport you want. We have DFS, betting, all the tools, everything that you guys want. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, but it's time to dive in, Matt. Week 11, the season is winding down pretty quickly here.
Yeah, it is. I'm excited. We're starting to get a clear picture of the playoff, but there's still a bunch of really interesting games and stuff to shake out. So I'm excited for this week's games in particular.
I am too. I mean, we saw a couple unbeatens get knocked off. The playoff picture is starting to take focus. If you want some insight into our thoughts there, I do want to quickly shout out Betting You, which is our podcast. You and me, long form, we talk about a ton of games, some from this video and some other ones that we have our eye on in the betting market. But I'm going to get things started if you are cool with that. And you're wearing the Notre Dame hat as you always do. I would never do that because I don't like that team, but it's strictly business here on this show. I'm going to lay 5.5 points with Notre Dame this week. They take on Virginia. They hit the road. I think the Fighting Irish have distinct advantages in this game. The first one, there is a chance that Virginia's all-world quarterback is injured. We don't know how badly, but he is banged up. If he sits, then they're in big trouble. But even if he plays, I think that Notre Dame is certainly the more balanced team. They can run when they want to. They've got some different options at quarterback. They've got some playmakers on the outside. Defensively, I don't think there's even an argument. They are significantly stronger than a UVA team that has given up a ton of points to basically everybody outside Duke. And Duke is not a real team. So I look at this. Notre Dame, I think, will be able to score with them. Their defense in recent weeks, they've held down not great teams, but after Cincinnati, they have found their groove a little bit. Still a one-loss team. So inside a touchdown with all the question marks on the Virginia side, I'm getting things started with Notre Dame this week.
I love that. And Virginia's defense has just been so bad. They have an explosive offense, but they cannot stop anybody. It's a team that ranks 123rd in pass rush. And I want to highlight Notre Dame's offensive line, their strides that they've made this year. It's a team that was replacing all their starters, and now they're a unit that has jumped all the way up into top 15 in Pro Football Focus pass block metric. You look in the run game, and Notre Dame's still very strong there too, where they're inside, the top half of the country, and they've been improving week over week, especially since they've added that dynamic ability from Tyler Buckner as a dual threat quarterback, situationally replacing Jack Cohn for those gadget type run plays. They've been phenomenal, well over 100 yards per game in their last 5. Kyron Williams has been fantastic against the run, and Virginia is allowing nearly 6 yards per carry, just speaking to the poorness of that defensive line overall. So a lot of matchup advantages to Notre Dame here, not to mention strength of schedule, just level of competition, a lot favoring the Irish.
No doubt. Yeah, the ACC in general, I've been pretty uninspired with. So to me, UVA's got some problems. They are at home, and Notre Dame at times has been certainly vulnerable, but I still think they're the better team here. All right. I've mentioned Notre Dame. I know you've got a couple bets that you really like. Where do you want to take us for your first bet here?
I want to go to Miami and talk about the Hurricane, a team that is significantly different from the start of the year. They are on their third string quarterback, which I was fading a lot right when they made the switch, but it turns out Van Dyke is just actually a good player overall, well above 300 yards in each of the last 3 games for Van Dyke. The offense has taken on kind of a new identity under him. And they're also kind of different in the run game now that they have to use Jalen Knight, and they've already lost 2 starting running backs, Donald Chaney and Cameron Harris. But it's really interesting. You go to your third string running back, your third string quarterback, and the offense is suddenly looking a little better. But that very much is the case. They've now racked up a lot of points in essentially 3 straight games against good defenses. They play Georgia Tech. You have Van Dyke passing for 389. They go over 400 against Pitt, a pretty formidable defense in the ACC, and over 300 again against NC State. Now they're facing a Florida State team whose defense doesn't even compare to some of those teams we just mentioned, and you can still get this inside a field goal. It's basically priced as if there's just a normal no-name backup third-string quarterback in there. But we've now seen a little bit more from Dike to know he's not that.
And I'll just add, I've actually been pretty impressed. Again, I don't think the ACC is great, but if you take the top of the ACC, those are the teams predominantly that this guy has faced. It's not like he's beaten up on the bottom dwellers of the conference and we're saying, okay, now he gets Florida State, who's not great themselves, but it's a step up. That's not the case. This guy went on the road and beat Pittsburgh. They played NC State. They've played close games. But to me, those teams, far superior to a Florida State team that, let's just be honest, they've been disappointing all year. They've got no answers at quarterback. They're just not a very good team. They are home. That's about all I can say for that. Miami's already hit the road. They score points. I actually think that Miami's in a pretty good situation. I know it's not been the year they envisioned, but credit to them. They have turned it on late in the season, making a respectable push in the ACC.
I agree. And again, their just level of competition has been much better than Florida State. And I want to highlight they have played close games this whole time. Their margin of victory against Georgia Tech, Pitt, and NC State wasn't great. But they've also put up a lot of points in those games, which is particularly important to me. They've been over 30 points in each of them. Can Florida State put up 30 points against a middling Miami defense, especially with Jordan Travis, who's banged up? Mackenzie Milton, he's just not the same player. As unfortunate as that is, he just isn't the same guy we knew at UCF. So can this one-dimensional offense do that? I don't think they can.
Speaking of one-dimensional offenses, the game that I'm going to, I can't even say it. I really can't, but I'm going to. I'm going to Oklahoma part 10. I'm not giving up on this team. They are still undefeated. They are also 5.5-point favorite on the road, just like Notre Dame. They're playing Baylor, and I'm going to start with Baylor. You mentioned one-dimensional. To me, Baylor has one chance. They got to run the ball early, often, and control the clock. If there's one thing that Oklahoma I trust, it's their front seven. They are good against the run. They are good at getting pressure. And I think that Baylor is not going to be able to do that. So if that's the case, what's going to happen? Well, to me, I'm going to now take it to Oklahoma side. They've got some other options. Oklahoma wants to run the ball too, but if they can't, they still have Caleb Williams. They've got Mims on the outside. They've got Hazelwood. If Theo Weiss could ever come back, that would be fantastic. And they've got options in the backfield. I do think they're the more dynamic team. Yes, they've played down to level of competition. Baylor just lost to TCU, who, say what you want, but they just fired their coach. I've not been too impressed with them of late. And they just run at such a high clip. I do not think they are built to get into a shootout if that's what happens. So when I look at these teams, they do mirror each other in some regards. Baylor is at home. It's a good environment. I simply think that Oklahoma has the skill set advantage. Now, I know they've had the skill set advantage against a bunch of teams, and they have not lived really starts for Oklahoma. They have to win these games to get into the playoff, and I think they do just that this week.
I agree with you, and it's funny. I feel like we could clip any of our previous shows, particularly early in the year, and talk about these advantages that Oklahoma theoretically has over their opponents. At this point, they haven't played up to them, but they're still there. And I like that you mentioned game manager Bohannon at quarterback. If Baylor's behind in this game, how do they come back? And I think that's a major issue. Also, this Baylor team, which is very run heavy and very slow, they're built to win these slow, methodical games. And the Oklahoma defense has been worse against the pass. If they take this run first approach, they are going to be running directly into the teeth of the Oklahoma defense, which is way stronger up front, only allowing 3.6 yards per carry to individual backs. It's a spot where the weaknesses of the Oklahoma defense aren't really exploitable by Baylor outside of an outlier performance. And conversely, Oklahoma under Caleb Williams, they have many facets to their offense that they can now exploit against an overrated Baylor defense, which is rated so highly because of a weak strength of schedule.
Well said. Yeah, Oklahoma's outside the top 100 in passing defense. Baylor is not built to exploit that. If they do, more power to them, and I'm probably going to be in trouble. I don't see that happening. Oklahoma, when they look good, they are far superior to these teams. I know that's few and far between. Inside a touchdown, I do not think this is the trap game. I think Oklahoma shows up in a big way. So we've got Notre Dame minus 5.5, Miami Hurricanes minus 2.5, and Oklahoma Sooners minus 5.5. Put it on the card. If you have any questions, Matt, where can they follow you?
I am on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. You can follow me there.
Boom. At JazzRazDFS here. Again, like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments what games you're on this week. We want to know about it. Good luck, my friends. Enjoy the games. We'll talk to you guys soon.